Okay, hello everybody. I think it's already 6 p.m. Ukrainian time. I suggest we wait just for 2 more minutes to keep admitting a few more participants that are trying to join, like up to 2 minutes, and then we will start our webinar. Proactively, I'm thankful to everybody who has joined us so far.
I have seen Anton, you have joined. Anton Udirenko. Hi, Anton.
Hey, I joined just
Taras.
that it would be a nice opportunity to meet you again.
Hi.
Hey, Anton.
So I'm really
Glad
glad to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
See how our advertisement works? This is great.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm seeing many familiar faces, which is great, which is perfect. And yeah, not just all Vertido joined. We have a lot of people who are not from Vertido. Like, hey, our advertisement works great. All the Vertido developers are in this call. I'm also sure that we have quite a good attendance in Facebook right now. Anton, do you mind checking real quick?
Sorry, did you?
Oh, not you. Sorry, not we have a few more Antons here. I'm sorry, there are like 30 participants. Antons keep joining.
Anton, Anton Udirenko, you have to press the like button on Facebook.
Yeah, and share.
I already did.
Yes.
Okay,
so
very
I see
good.
that Sebastian commented something on Facebook under our live stream webinar. So
Very good. Well, I
it
see
works.
we're already 2 minutes in, so I suggest we start. I'll do a very brief intro. I'm Nina, HR business partner with Vertido. It is my pleasure to welcome you all, and it is definitely my pleasure to welcome Pexapark team to this event. We appreciate you guys preparing and coming here and bringing up the subject that invited so many developers to come and join. Just a very brief disclaimer why we are having this in English. We are having quite an international group of registries, and also, as you know, Pexapark is a very international team, so English will just be a lot more convenient. However, if you have any questions that you feel more comfortable asking in Ukrainian, you will have an option to do so, and we will be happy to assist with translation or whatever. So don't worry, if you have a question, it's maybe technical, maybe you're too lazy to figure out how to type it in English, just ask in whatever it's comfortable for you. I'm not good at Mandarin Chinese, so please avoid that. But everything else, probably we can figure it out. Now, a very brief intro of who we have here. As I mentioned, this is the Pexapark team. They will tell you a lot more about them, but we have Florian, who's the CTO and co-founder. We have Nazar Kushnir, who is a senior Java developer with Pexapark, and Gadi Ahorn, senior software engineer. So 3 countries. Florian is from Switzerland, Nazar is from Lviv, Ukraine, and Gadi is from London, United Kingdom. Also, guys, so you're aware, after this webinar, which will last approximately, the speaking part and the presentations will last approximately 35-40 minutes from now. And then we will have the Q&A part. However, if you have a question during the conversation and during presentations, please feel free to shoot your questions here in Zoom in the chat option, or you can send your questions via Facebook, and we will be monitoring the questions. Once we get to the Q&A part, we will address all of your questions here. So again, thank you all for attending, and I'm passing it over to Florian, who will proceed with introducing you to Pexapark.
Yeah, thank you very much for this very nice introduction, Nina, and thanks for helping put this event together. Thanks everyone for joining. We're excited. It's the first time that we're holding such a tech webinar, so we're really looking forward to it. Also nice to see some familiar faces. Anton, Taras, it's really cool that you're here. Yeah, let me jump right into the agenda. I'm first going to introduce Pexapark, like who we are, what we do, and then our flagship product, the Pexa Monitor. just for basically explaining what it does. Then Nazar will take over, and he will tell you about the history and the evolution of the Pexa monitor. So it's basically, he will tell you what happened so far. And then Gotti will go into the main topic of the talk, which is basically what motivates us to and how we proceed in changing the architecture from a rather monolithic approach to a more microservices oriented approach. I think it's important that, I mean, we wanted to do this as we just want to share our experience. We don't want to claim too much. We just want to basically give you a real world example of how a software company is doing that. So briefly about Pexapark, we have founded the company 3.5 years ago. We have grown considerably since. We're now a bit more than 30 people in 3 locations. So the main office is in Zurich. There's around 20 people there. Then we have an office in Lviv where there's currently 6 people working. And then we have a London office where there's currently 5 people working there. So we're a very international company. Obviously at the moment, all working remotely or mostly working remotely. What do we do? Simply put, we help owners of renewable assets. So that can be a wind farm, that can be a solar park. We help these owners of renewable assets to better sell their energy. Now, why is that relevant? Historically, renewable energy has been heavily subsidized. Governments have given subsidies so that renewable energy is built. And that meant if you have built such an asset, you just have to make sure it runs technically sound. And the government will guarantee you a price that you receive for the energy you produce. So you didn't have to worry about the income side. And this is changing now, has changed in several countries, in that you need to now sell your energy on the open market. And that's really difficult for these renewable investors because they have no experience doing that. It's really hard for them because the electricity market is very volatile, and they have the special condition that they cannot control when they produce. So they produce when the wind blows or when the sun shines. They have no control over that. And that's where we help them. We have basically 2 main areas where we're active there. One is the transaction business. So you have to enter into contracts, make contracts on how to sell your energy. That's the so-called PPAs. But then you also need to continuously monitor your entire portfolio. So you need to always be aware of what happens from a commercial perspective, not only technical, but commercial. And that's basically what we do. And today we're going to look at the Pexa monitor. I mean, the technical part, but just to give you a bit of context, the Pexa monitor is basically a tool for energy risk management. It's software as a service. It connects your entire portfolio, so all the production data, all the contracts, all the market information in one single place. And this gives you a daily renewable risk calculation, so you always know what the risks you are facing. It includes all your contracts. It basically gives you all the energy data you have in one single place for your monitoring, for reporting, etc. Yeah, so much from who we are and what we do, in which field we're active. And now I'm happy to hand it over to Nazar, who will tell you a bit about how this monitor was built and where we stand now.
Hello. Thanks, Florian. Oh,
Welcome.
sorry. Thanks, Florian. Hi, everybody. My name is Nazar, and I'm glad to be here. I would like to share with you guys some history of evolution of monitor project. I divided it into 3 phases. First phase is MVP phase. Second phase is going to production and getting first customers. And third one is basically evolution to microservice world. And now we are on third phase. So let's start from the beginning. What technologies did we use? It was pretty standard, I would say, Java stack. We used Java 8 as primary programming language. We used Postgres as database. We used Spring Boot, Hibernate in mix with JDBC, Liquibase. We use Angular framework for our both front ends, customer UI and admin UI. And we use JHipster framework. It's a project generator, and we'll talk a little more about it later. Okay, so what challenges did we face with during that phase? So first of all, and most important, we had to pivot in a lot scoping in order to fit market needs, because we had only some ideas but didn't know if they work. We didn't know where we will be in few months. Another challenge was to unify data from different sources and data providers in different formats. So we had to negotiate with data providers about format of data, about some contracts and so on. And we had to unify that data on our site and fit that to some common form and store in our database. Another challenge was to schedule those importers. So here we decided to implement our own decision, which is based on cron expression, and it's quite flexible. We still use it. It also supports such features like retry logic or ability to reschedule failed jobs. But it has very big minus, and we will talk about it also later today. Okay, so another challenge was to work with time series data. Nothing new here, but still it requires a lot of efforts to make it properly. I mean, to properly handle different time zones, DST rules, and so on. Last but not least, it's data quality. What I mean here that data not always comes to us in full package. Sometimes there could be gaps in between. And we had somehow to indicate that to our customers. So we introduced term data coverage here, which means that we show percentage of real data used to build some figure on chart. For example, if for some day we got only 12 early records instead of 24, then data coverage is 50%. Basically, quite simple. Okay, so what lesson did we learn during this phase? First and most important lesson was that it's really hard to build proper application, proper UI, and rich set of business features without feedback from real customers. And we went that path, and as a result, we redesigned our applications 3 times. Okay, another lesson, important lesson, is related to JHipster, which I mentioned about. The main rule here is that do not customize auto-generated code, or at least try to customize it as less as possible. And also, next rule is try to upgrade it regularly. Otherwise, you just can get into nightmare in the future. Okay, so that's all about first phase. Let's move to second phase. So we got first customers, and we had we set next goals for us. First, to gather feedback from real customers and build business features based on that, or modify existing features. Second goal, important goal and big goal, was to improve overall platform availability and reliability, since we had real customers and didn't want to let them down. Okay, what technologies and approaches did we use? Of course, based on existing tech stack. So first, we decided to move from on-premise service to Google Cloud Platform. We decided to use Docker Kubernetes to improve deployment availability and so on. And third one is related to business features. We decided to replace data coverage approach with more sophisticated polynomial regression estimation, which is based on, we call it machine learning. Okay, so what challenges did we face with here? First,
Nazar, I think at least for me, I have lost the audio.
Yes, we lost. Oh, here we go. Nazar, you are muted. And yes, you are muted.
No, we can't hear you.
hello?
Oh, perfect.
Now we can
You're
hear
back.
you. Yeah.
Sorry guys, what was the last that you heard?
We call it machine learning.
Okay, so then let's go to challenges which we faced on that phase. So first, that we were not expert in cloud technologies. We were not experts with Kubernetes, so we had to build our own expertise with those technologies, trying to use best practices. Another challenge for us was to integration with other company products, since Monitor is not the only product of Pexapark. Next challenge was to rebuild, basically related to this data coverage replacing, and it affected huge code base, huge part of existing code base, and we had to do that gradually, like step by step. Okay, what lesson did we learn here? First lesson was that Monitor in general is, monolithic architecture in general is not bad approach. It depends on many factors. And I would say it's good until it meets your business needs. Next lesson is that applications should evolve in time and use new approaches, new technologies accordingly. It's basically normal path, but you will end up with huge technical debt, especially it's applicable for startups. And eventually you have to pay that. And the sooner you do that, the better. So it's important. Okay, let's go next. Sorry. There is some delay with switching flights.
So I will try to.
Yeah, could you help me, Florian?
Yeah, I will try. Here we go.
Okay, thank you, Florian. Here I will show you how data is moving in our application and how do we process it. So as I mentioned it, we use JHipster project generator, which generate us admin UI. It's basically quite good and ready to use. And there we can configure everything, starting from customer data, starting from data importers, job schedulers, and so on. Okay, what type of data do we import? So it is, first of all, it is production volume. Also, it's forecast volume, which is based on weather forecast. It's also different prices like spot price, market price, and so on. When data is imported, raw data, we start processing it, which basically is triggered automatically. And first step is normalization. What does it mean? It means that data the same data could come from different data providers or have different data levels. And here we try to feed that to some common form. After normalization, we apply linear regression approach, which is about filling gaps. If data have gaps, we analyze existing data and find gaps and fill them with linear regression approach or polynomial regression. After that, normally we should have complete pack of data. So then we can calculate revenue on top of that data, do some pre-aggregation and so on. After that, data is complete and it is ready to be used by customer UI or to generate some reports for customers and so on. So basically this overall data flow, I believe, will not change a lot in the future, maybe with some adjustment and improvement, but technical implementation will definitely be changed, and we clearly understand that now. So let's continue with overviewing existing architecture. So what we have now and how we plan to change that in the future. At this point, I'll give floor to Gadi. So Gadi, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Nazar. Hi, everyone. I'm Gadi. Thanks for joining, and thanks, Nazar. So now we're on basically the last phase that we described. We started it about a few months ago in the last quarter of 2020. The diagram you see is basically the architecture of what we have at the moment, where we started. So there's a monolith application, which only has a single instance from different reasons that we're going to talk in a minute. There's several components. The scheduler point, where we talk about the cron job. There's the admin UI, the customer UI, which the customer is using, and some shared backend with our database. And we pull some data from other internal databases called the quant. There's FTP feed of data that we ingest data from our different providers, and the clients are served over HTTP. Okay, so what are the reasons for making changes to this architecture? So first of all, we want a solution to fit the future. We expect our client base to grow, so we need a solution that will able to scale in data and scaling in users. We want to improve the data quality. We want to capture more data. We want to be more accurate with the data we capture, and we want to provide it to the users more quickly than overnight processing. We want to be able to ask more questions into our data, ask better questions. We want better flexibility. We want to improve the user experience as a result of all those, more performance and more richer APIs. And obviously being able to scale up and scale out our solution. We do have a technical debt that we need to conquer. Obviously, the product was rebuilt 3 times. Looking for a product market fit is a challenge, and it leaves behind a lot of technical debt. Reducing it, most of the time, we're looking at different areas. One of them is the database. There's a lot of intermediate calculation and end calculation cached into the database, which are giving us a lot of problem in different reasons. I want to reduce that. Integration with other internal products. So some of what we built is actually existing other products in the company. So we can kind of migrate that into a microservice, make a call to internal service, and not have that code internally. Reduce limitation on the architecture. As you heard, the cron job, the scheduler, what Nazar was saying, it has one big limitation, which is it can only have one single instance. And because it sits inside our monoliths, that means that our monoliths cannot scale. So that's one big area for fix. We want to fix some inherited inaccuracy in our data, the way we ingest it, with the way we process it, some areas for cleaning up and fixing. There's a lot of dependency. JHipster bring a lot of Java dependency, which brings Spring, which bring a lot of stuff. On top of that, we have our own stuff that we brought in, customization, and so on. So we need to reduce all that and clean that up. Overall, we want to improve the developer productivity. Testing should be faster. The feedback loop should be faster, and overall experience, be able to make changes, and new features should be faster. On the delivery side, take a long time to add new features and fix existing one and making changes. And that's again because there's so much complexity and so much code that it's still in there. We want to improve the system performance, and we don't want to reduce it while we're going through this process. And we want to improve the stability of the system. So we want to be able to know that what we introduce is stable. We're not introducing bugs, and overall we're more resilient. So we had several possible paths to take. The first one was a complete rewrite. We didn't believe that a rewrite is a viable solution, mainly because we are the same team. And if we go on a, everybody likes a greenfield project, go on that, bring something from scratch, but we are the same people. Most likely we're gonna make the same mistakes. We already have a number of customers in production. We cannot just abandon them and say, okay, wait, we're gonna make something new. We'll come back in a year with new features. That's not possible. We have a limited capacity. We are a small team. We cannot just, dedicate a lot of resources for that kind of an effort. It's very hard to estimate the timeline, how long that kind of effort will take. And also it's very hard to predict the results. I mean, while the time you start and the time the market changed, requirement have changed, the time you finish, the product and the market is already different. So it's very hard to predict a success in that kind of effort. Another option was to refactor. So I'm going from the inside, target local improvement, looking at the domain, enforcing domain boundaries. We have main areas of functionality, the volume side, the price side, the revenue side, enforce the boundaries, clean it up, and then gradually migrate that into microservices and externalize them. We could, in the process, obviously improve the testability, and the delivery process will be improved because you have more control over what's going on and everything is more encapsulated. We can clean up and upgrade the dependencies. We still have Java 8. We still have JHipster. I think it's 1 or 2 versions back, and all the dependencies that comes with that. So these upgrades are also due. But this process is very, very slow. Think that we're also working hard on improving and putting features and making changes. So that's going to be very, very slow process and going to take a while. What we chose to take is the hybrid solution, which basically kind of a mix of the two. Identify areas of splitting where we can see that this part of the product can actually live in isolation and be its own microservice very quickly. Areas where we can introduce new framework to solve problems, database access or things like that we can help us abstract some of the work and do a quick refactor or introduce something in parallel. Obviously, we talked about calling other products in the company that already have the same features. So instead of duplicating the work internally, call a product that already exists. That's also work that can be done easily. Any problematic areas, services like the scheduler, put it in its own microservice, let it be there as a singleton, and then all the rest can move on. For example, splitting the customer UI. The customer UI is just an Angular app. It can happily sit in a Node.js app and sit in its own microservice and call the backend as an API. Same with the admin UI. That's another good opportunity for a quick win. We have plans to put in a big data mining solution for our data layer. So that instead of refactoring from inside, we can just go and take advantage of that and rebuild areas of the product that's be built on the new data layer. So ongoing activities that we are actually doing now. One of the things we already done is we replace some of the importers' capabilities and responsibility into Camel, and that lives in its own microservice. It's taking care of very simple jobs of CSV data imports. And there are plans to increase the responsibility of that Camel with taking more responsibility from the scheduler. We have started work on taking data directly from the quant simulator, and as opposed to capturing that data internally in our database. More work is coming in the future, and also there's a work in progress of introducing user management and authentication with Keycloak, which we're going to integrate soon because that's also going on. But that is a company-wise initiative. Refactoring, we are working on getting rid of some of our old SQL queries and SQL generators with JDBI framework. We migrating some of our cron jobs into Camel. Some of them been replaced completely by on-demand that doesn't need schedule work anymore, and some of them will be cron jobs that have been migrated to Camel, but that's ongoing process. Refactoring the tests. A lot of our tests are kind of a bit of a bottleneck. It takes a long time to run the test, so we want to make the test faster. We introduced test containers. Some of the tests already run in parallel and isolated. Some are still ongoing refactoring process. On the research side, we are evaluating different big data solutions. We're looking at thinking about JHipster alternative, things like Ruby on Rails or anything like that. This is basically an admin UI generator. It's nothing super complicated. So that's another area. And of course, calculating data on the fly. We want to stop doing caching of calculated data. We want to run it directly from raw data all the time. So things like Ignite or tools like Ignite or Spark are part of our research area. So what the progress look like now? The monolith is still there, but it's now a scale version. We isolated the scheduler into his own singleton, which is deployed, and the scaled version of the monolith is actually with the scheduler disabled. So we still have a single scheduler in deployed, but the rest of the application is still a monolith, but it actually scales up. The importer, the Camel bit, is already deployed, and it talks to the backend through an API, and it's processing data from our FTP. The scheduler is still calling the quant, but this is work that is actually starting soon to replace some of that dependency. So areas of research, we're looking at big data solutions. What we are looking for is to do calculation on the fly. We don't want to have any intermediate caching of calculation or final calculation stored in our databases. We want to be able to do faster and better reporting and streaming data into the data layer. We want to do things like MapReduce. For example, if you're a client with a big portfolio, you might have many assets. You might want to have like a snapshot of everything in one go. So we don't want to do an asset per asset kind of calculation. We want to like scatter and gather, do one query, run on all the different assets in parallel, and come back with the results. Nazar mentioned machine learning. We do linear regression. We might want to do more advanced technique in the future. So our big data solution should be able to cater for that. On the integration side, we are working with SAP and we expect more partners. So we want to have better integration and establish a better way to integrate with new partners. Focus modeling based on weather, but basically there's a lot of, this is a big area of improvement that we can introduce. We want to be able to do better focus modeling overall. In taking a market price, we have spot market, PPA market, all that is coming, but we want to introduce more real time into that area, so we have better accuracy and recency of the market prices. Same idea with the currency exchange. In order to convert different assets in different countries and different currencies and different grid that our clients supply to, they need to have currency exchange market data. So we want to integrate better on that area. On the microservices side, we are using for CI/CD, we're using Jenkins, but we also have kind of recently area of Bitbucket pipelines, which doing a CI/CD, but also we're looking at a more external solution like Circle CI or similar to kind of give us more power and more standard into our process. On Kubernetes, as you heard, we're not new in Kubernetes, but we're not experts. There are many areas that we can improve the way we use Kubernetes, how we deploy, and how Kubernetes is organized. And that's area that we're looking into, learn more and improve that. Mainly Helm charts, the way we are packaging and deploying and managing our deployments into Kubernetes. We're looking to see whether Helm can help us with that. And last thing, on areas of monitoring and metrics and getting insight into our infrastructure, we want to look into things like Prometheus and Grafana, get more insight of what our users are using, what is working, what is not working, which areas are suffering from performance, get better idea of where we need to go. So that was it. Thank you very much. I think we are taking questions.
Yes, and just a reminder for everybody who's participating now, we are accepting your questions either here in chat. There is a chat window, there is a chat option underneath of your screen. And also we are accepting questions via Facebook. Also, if you just want to ask a question live and hear an answer from Gadi, Florian, or Nazar, you are welcome to speak up now. Now there is a good time. Since we don't have a lot of screaming questions at the moment, I guess you can just speak up if you have one. So now it's a good time to open it up for questions and discussions. Any questions coming from Facebook, Anton?
No, not yet.
And again, just to remind, if you feel more comfortable asking your question in Ukrainian or Russian, please go ahead with that. I'll be happy to assist.
Hello.
Hi.
Well, guys, thank you a lot for your great presentation. My name is Andrei. I am a front-end engineer in Vertido. And I'd like to ask a question for you. When you decided to move forward to microservices architecture, what was your very first insights, very first steps you took on that way? What was the order of that steps in your case, and why? Thank you.
Sure, Gadi, Nazar, you want to take that?
I can take that. Oh,
Go ahead.
Yeah, please go.
I think the main thing was I think that the main drive initially was the scheduler and the limitation that it brings. It does take a lot of time to do its work. And we knew for a while that this is going to be problematic. We just came up with a kind of high-level plan how we think this should be tackled, considering the hybrid approach that we knew we want to take. How to isolate it, how the future is going to look. We just kind of high-level outline how it's going to look. The next step, we didn't like details say, okay, we're going to do A, B, and C. But we knew we want to tackle that problem. And yeah, I think, did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. And we have a question from Anatoly Savenko, who asked us to go back to question number to slide number 12. Anatoly, do you want to ask a question about this, or you just wanted to see the slide? We don't hear Anatoly.
Just to see for now.
Just
So,
a second.
we
Okay.
will leave it on. We will leave it on.
Okay, let's keep it on. Perfect. And we also have.
Can I ask a question about?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, my question is about how you prevent DDoS attacks from your HTTP interface. So some kind of the WAF policy according to ingress rules, or you are using some kind of the cloud capabilities. What's the preference for your way?
I would say currently we use cloud capabilities here, but it is in our plans for the future to improve that.
Thank you.
And we also have a question from Svyat. What communication protocols between microservices?
So for the camel side, we just use JSON over HTTP internally. There's nothing really fancy. It's just because the backend supports that, and we didn't want to make big changes on that. So just that. For the new side on the Quant, we will see what the Quant API is going to provide, and then we can adjust to that. So internally, there's no like, Google RPC or anything fancy like that. Very, very simple for now.
Thanks for the answers.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a small detail on that from my side. We have built one microservice which is not related to the monitor, but which is more on the transaction side. And this one actually uses RPC. And basically there we said we would provide both on that service, but RPC was the first one we provided because the project that needed that microservice first was okay communicating like this. So I would say, so we actually have one that works with that, but yeah, it's not yet set in stone.
All right. Svyat, does that answer you, or do you have any follow-up on this?
Yeah, that's pretty clear for me. Thanks.
Thank you. And we have a question from Annie. Will you be using TDD while developing new microservices for obvious reasons?
I can take that.
Yep.
So for the camel side, we definitely use TDD in some areas. Not religiously TDD, but kind of in some areas where it's kind of clear which path to take, TDD is very powerful. In mainly with working with legacy, yeah, it's much harder. There are tests, but not all the time you understand what the tests are doing. So there's a lot of work on deciphering that and doing tests first. That's a good discipline.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna, for your question. Do we have more questions coming in? I don't see any new ones in chat, in Zoom chat. Do we have something else coming from Facebook?
No.
Mhm. Okay, well, while we're maybe waiting for a few more minutes for the guys to come up with additional questions, I just wanted to also let you all know that, well, Pexapark is actually very actively growing right now, and we have 4 open vacancies. So if you if you like the whole idea of monoliths to microservices and you want to participate in all that fun hands-on, you're welcome to join the team. You're welcome to apply. We have 4 positions open with Pexapark, which is backend engineer, Java, front-end engineer, Angular. We're also looking for a QA engineer, and we're looking for data engineer. So if you have any questions regarding any of that, we will send you actually the follow-up email where you will be able to see all those vacancies, and you will be very much welcome to ask any questions to me or Florian, who will actually be in Lviv next week. So that's how exciting.
If all goes well. If all goes well, yes.
Yeah, so the team is actually growing. And yes, we have more questions. How do you manage lock and stateful states in rollout process?
I'm not sure I understood the question. Did you understand the question, Florian?
Yeah. Let me ask it by voice. So, as for example, you have some kind of some stateful set application, something like RabbitMQ, or something like MongoDB in cluster. It has its own state. So when you create a rollout process, and as for example, change the version of the Mongo or change the version of the RabbitMQ, the state is inside the volumes, persistent volumes.
Mm-hmm.
How you manage this? How you unmount this volume, or you're using some kind of different rollout process? You're using the operators for this?
Very good question. There's a lot of it is part of our research and future, especially when we're looking at the data grid. We don't have Mongo and such. We have Postgres, so that's not a problem. That's a managed service. But for our application, yes, we reducing the amount of caching we have on the application to not have that state. For anything else, we're still researching how we're going to do that. Especially on the data grid side, you're right. This is a challenge, especially in Google Cloud, where they can move you around whenever they think that you should sit on another hardware. So yeah, good question.
Okay, yeah, thank you for answer.
Perfect. We still do have quite a few minutes left. So guys, please don't be shy. If you have more questions, keep them coming. Oh yes, and we have more. Do I understand correctly? All requests go through backend into PostgreSQL, and this is from Anatoly.
Yeah, this is not like a very accurate diagram. This is a simplified version. Yeah, not everything goes through the backend. There are services that call the database directly, which we all know that there are really bad practices and anti-patterns, and we are working on cleaning them out. Mainly, we want external services or other microservices to use APIs and not use databases integration. This is a good point, and there's some areas that are violating that rule, and we're working on cleaning that up. Did it answer your question?
Yep. Very good. How do you scale your database? Still from Anatoly.
Yeah, so we talked about the refactoring and identify domain boundaries and identify different areas of the product that can scale. That also goes for the database. So there's areas of the database that are specific to a specific domain. For example, price side, volume side, revenue side. Potentially they can scale also by having their own database. So that's area that we're looking into. it could be that solution. So break up the data physically, so different areas will be served from different databases. The data is probably more immutable, so you can scale by having more readers. We haven't reached that point that we need to do that yet, but it could be a solution for the future. At the moment, we are working fine with just single database.
Very good. Anatoly, does that answer your question?
Yes.
I guess yes. Okay, and we
I
have
see, sorry, Nina, I see there is one more question
from
Andrei.
Andrei. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you plan to improve schema constantly, step by step, or do you see the final architecture that you want to achieve?
I can take that one. I would say it's more step by step, as Gadi said. We choose to take like more hybrid approach, where we identify some area which can be somehow isolated and then move it to microservice. So it's more like step by step process.
I think actually maybe from my side also, that's also something that I find quite important. It was mentioned before that when you're pivoting, when you're finding a market fit for your product, when you're not yet 100% sure how your product is going to look like, it means that you will make a lot of changes. Maybe you don't have like a 1-year plan of what to do. And I think on the monitor, it's quite a mature product, but we have other products in the company that are younger, where we're still very much in that experimental phase. And the long-term goal, or like the long-term horizon for us, is to be able to integrate these applications into like a suite, something that is perceived by the customer as a workflow, not individual applications. And I think in such a context where there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of evolution going on, I think this is a very good approach that we say we take it step by step. We identify clear benefits that we have from changing this, and then step by step you get to a better architecture. I think there's been several new questions, so maybe
Yes.
I think that was good of you to mention us. There's one more.
From Leonid.
Why are you from Leonid? Why are you not using Patroni HA PostgreSQL Kubernetes solution? To be honest, I do not know it. Nazar, Gadi, do you know it?
No.
That's only my like. I just want to know, because I heard that you are using the PostgreSQL and Patron is one of the level up from the PostgreSQL. Okay.
Okay. Interesting hint.
It's like commercial version, or what are benefits?
No, it's have a community edition. It's the Ladno based project that provide high available Kubernetes solution for PostgreSQL. I used it several times and it was pretty fine for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the hint. We'll definitely look into
we use Postgres on Google Cloud Platform, and basically it worked well, pretty well for us so far. So maybe thank you for the question. Maybe we will look in that direction.
Very cool. I see also much more activity. Also, Anna is asking, by the way, maybe I missed something, but will you move your project into some kind of cloud? If so, what cloud provider did you choose? And if no, please explain also.
Basically, we mentioned it briefly that we moved to, like a year ago, even less than a year ago, we moved to Google Cloud Platform. Yeah. So, and question what said, basically we don't use Spring Cloud stuff at all. We only use Spring Boot now, and ideally we plan to get rid of Spring at all, because it's taking this old Spring magic taking too long just to set up application, just to start application. So we don't use Spring Cloud.
Maybe in this case, you will take a look inside the Quarkus. It's some kind of the Red Hat project. It's really fast.
Maybe, yeah, we are researching in that area.
Okay, thanks.
Good. There was one more questions about what UI libraries are you using for dashboards. There we are using for charting. We are using a HighChart, which is a commercial library available from I think it's a Norwegian company that develops this.
Okay, any other questions? Oh yeah. Actually, I saw that one coming. What advantages you see in Google Cloud in comparison with AWS or Azure?
It's basically the answer very simple. When we decided to move to some cloud provider, we just had most experience with Google Cloud. And we did some comparison with AWS, but we decided to go to Google Cloud because we just had some expertise, some experience, and that's it.
Yeah, I can confirm this very opportunistic choice that we made.
on a more like a got into that where I had not involved in the choice. I think Google Cloud is much simpler to use. I think it's just everything makes more sense. AWS for me is just too complicated. Google Cloud is much simpler, easy to use. And we don't have any Azure experience, sorry.
Yeah, we are not Windows guys and Microsoft.
All right, very cool. Any other questions coming? Maybe somebody late thought? We'll give you all just a few more minutes to maybe come up with something. And just as a reminder, we do have this streamed live, but there will be also a recording that will be available on Work with Vertido Facebook page, and also it will be available in YouTube. So when we provide you with a follow-up after our call, after our webinar, you will all receive a quick follow-up just to get more information, and also more information on Pexapark and opportunities to apply. But also, if you would want to ask more questions later on, you are definitely more than welcome to do so. And you will receive the recordings of this webinar in case you would want to share it or watch it later.
Cool. And maybe from my side, I mean, yeah, still maybe there will be more questions, but just so thank you very much for helping us organize this, Nina and the entire team. It's really cool. Thanks. Thanks to you for participating, for joining, for asking questions. That's really cool. I hope you appreciated it. Big thanks to Nazar and Gaudi for agreeing to do this with me. Really cool experience. For everyone, I see there's some familiar faces. I see Anton, Taras, Oleg is also here. So if you want to stick around and have like a little, we can't do like the apero after. We can no longer do in real time, but we can just hang here and maybe chat a bit. So yeah, I will hang around a bit more.
You guys are
Just so you
definitely
know.
more than welcome to keep using Zoom for the after party. So that's all. That's open for.
That's good. That's good.
That's really sad.
It's getting trendy nowadays.
Yeah, every time when they say let's do a party in Zoom, people start crying. So anyways, we are used to it.
We'll try our best. I see there's a new question. In case you need to get up another instance of the backend, how do you balance the load from the UI?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, that is taken care of by the Ingress and the Kubernetes. It's not something that the first it takes it off the service, then it takes the instance down. Obviously, it could wait for the traffic to die to that instance, and then it replaces that with a new new container, new pod.
Yeah, that's true. Ingress doing load balancing for us.
All right. Well, since we don't, if we don't have any other questions, you guys are still welcome to hang around. Just like I mentioned, I know there are some familiar faces, so that's totally cool. I also wanted to say thank you a lot to the Pexapark team. Thank you for providing this webinar. Thank you for preparing. Definitely looking forward to seeing some of you in person, hopefully soon. And for sure, looking forward to more webinars like this coming. You guys are welcome to come up with another topic. We are always happy to host. And definitely thank you to everyone who attended today. It was awesome to see such a big group. There were at some point, there were like over 40 participants. Then it was going back and forth. Now there are 22, 23 who stuck around. Also, we have a few people watching us on Facebook. So definitely thank you for taking your time, for asking questions, for being so active, and looking forward to catching up with you guys on other webinars by Vertido, by Pexapark. You're always a great audience. Thanks a lot.